Hi all, we're going to look now at Kasparov versus Ljubojevic in Linares 1993. In the previous video, by the way, uploaded to YouTube, it was the 1992 final round of the 1992 Linares. So Ljubojevic again is playing white against Kasparov, plays d4. Kasparov plays the King's Indian defence, so one of his favourite openings. Now, after castles, knight f3, e5, this looks to be like the main line. White castles, knight c6, so this is all opening theory so far. But here knight d2, I believe this may not be as considered the main line as knight e1 here. So knight d2 with the idea perhaps of b4 and knight b3 later, then c5. Kasparov tries to sort of grab a share of the action on the queen side now. He doesn't let white just play b4. He plays a5 to try and interrupt this plan a little bit. So white has to spend a little bit more time preparing this b4 now. He plays rook b1, and after knight d7, white prepares it with a3. So Kasparov starts his kingside counterplay now with f5, and after b4, he doesn't want to take on b4. In fact, I believe his idea was to even just sacrifice the pawn if white took on a5 here. He plays king h8, so not minding b takes a5. One of the ideas perhaps of king h8 is usually often knight g8 and bishop h6 to try and exchange off this bad dark square bishop. But as it happens in this game, this king h8 has got a dual purpose idea of just rook g8. And the bishop can later be taken outside of black's pawn chain with bishop f6 to h4, as we'll see. So f3, now f4. So with f4 it's going to be difficult to exchange the bishops on this diagonal, so definitely bishop f6 to h4 is a strategic idea later for this bad dark square bishop, bad in inverted commas, in its own pawn chain. Now knight b3, so white didn't want to do b takes a5 because black wouldn't have recaptured perhaps, but just left that pawn there. But Kasparov doesn't want knight takes a5, that would be very, very dangerous. So now he takes on b4, and now he plays g5. So he's undermining white's pawn structure later now with g4. And white really doesn't want to do h3, that's just creating another weakness. It seems here like a very promising attack already by black. Bishop d2 and now knight g6. One of the things I like about the King's Indian when I play it myself is how these knights kind of support, the breakthrough of g4 later quite elegantly. So the f pawn flying forward, then the g pawn, then the knights coming, the cavalry to support the further, breakthroughs on the king side. So white is not without counterplay and plays rook a1. So trying to infiltrate on the queen side. Kasparov doesn't mind playing rook takes a1 and queen takes a1. So although one rook's gone, the queen might actually be badly placed if it tries to attack black's queen side. And Kasparov proves this quite interestingly. After knight f6, he invites the queen to come down to a7. Okay, at the moment it's still got a return point via f2 to defend the king. But we'll see now, with Kasparov's next move, he doesn't mind the white queen taking on b7 in a critical variation, and we'll see why. g4, so fg, knight takes g4. Now, why didn't white want to win a pawn here? Instead, white played h3. So let's have a look, though, at bishop takes g4, queen takes b7. So the queen would have been decoyed here. No easy return path to defend the king. So could black have got a really vicious attack here? I think so, but not with f3. I think f3 is harmless because of g3, and I can't see how black would continue. I think instead, with Rybka's help looking at this, queen g5, and let's say rook f2 now, knight h4, and with menacing threats now on the g2 square. Let's imagine white wants to sort of do something with this queenside attack, so knight b5, now bishop h3, now knight takes c7. So there's dangerous threats now of knight e6 attacking black's king. Queen g4 now, so inviting knight e6. This is a very, very sharp variation. Now just sacking the rook with bishop f6, and this is an amazing idea in this line. Knight takes f8 because of queen d1 check, and now if rook f1, can you see how black would be winning in this position? So the white queen and knight have been completely like decoyed away from white's king. There'll be a brilliant resource here, which I think many King's Indian players would be, do well to try and find out in this position. It's knight f3 check, so exploiting the virtual pin on f1, and after king f2, this bishop comes in with a vengeance with bishop h4 check, forcing g3, and now just queen takes f1 mate. So that is a very critical variation in my view of what would have happened if white had taken on g4. Instead h3 occurred, and now after bishop e1 here, Kasparov finally decided this plan. First rook g8, so forces are gathering on white's king, and after knight d2, bishop f6, so this plan to exchange off the dark squared bishop, but also it weakens white's king after this exchange. So we hear that strategic bishop exchange is followed by knight h4, and there's a lot of weight now on white's king side. After rook f2, queen g5, black has a very dangerous position indeed. White desperately tried to exchange off some of the attacking force by playing knight f3, but unfortunately after knight takes f3, bishop takes f3, Kasparov crashed through here with a brilliant move. Can you see it? I'll give you 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. He played bishop takes h3. So white resigns here. Here are some variations. Let's say king g1, knight g4, takes on h3, knight takes f2, discovered check, and that will be devastating for white. So what else? Instead of king h1, king g1, queen takes b7, bishop takes g2 check would be crushing. Because if, say, rook takes g2, check on h4, followed by check on e1, check on g2, check on g3, and white's just falling apart here. So these variations show that this bishop takes h3 is the beginning of the end for white. Say trying to defend now with queen a2, just queen g3, now knight g4 with menacing threats. And this kind of attack is pretty devastating now because black is threatening f3 here, and it's very difficult for white to do anything. Say knight d1, just queen takes e4, and it's really crushing for white. So anyway, after bishop takes h3, white resigned. Let's have a quick overview and summary of this elegantly played King's Indian defence. So a5 with the idea of slowing white's queenside attack, but it's as if white was lured into this queenside attack because his defences of his king was weakened, especially after this g4, just offering this b7 pawn as bait, because black could mount a very strong attack now on the g line, and white is really passive, just like the year before against Kasparov, and just blown away with this final move. Bishop takes h3. A model King's Indian game, and the first round of the Linares 1993, considered one of the strongest tournaments of all time. I hope you enjoyed that. Please leave any comments on YouTube.